If you're over 60 and you've been walking regularly, hoping it's enough to stay healthy, but you don't feel any stronger, any more energetic, any more capable than you did a year ago, this one is for you. I'm Dr. Whitfield, and today I want to talk about something that frustrates me every time it comes up in clinic. Because when people over 60 ask me, "Doctor, am I walking enough?" they almost always get the same answer from the medical system. Walk more, aim for 10,000 steps, move your body. None of that advice is wrong, but it's incomplete in a way that costs people years of life, literally. The research on this is striking, and almost nobody hears about it from their primary care doctor. So let me actually do this properly. Before we go further, two important things. First, I'm an AI-generated avatar built to deliver evidence-based health education. I'm not a substitute for your doctor, and the content here is reviewed against published research, but it cannot replace a real medical consultation. Second, none of what I'm about to say is medical advice for your specific situation. Always speak with your physician before changing your exercise habits, especially if you have any cardiovascular condition, joint problem, or balance issue. Now, with that clear, let's begin. Let me ask you something first. When you go for a walk, what does it actually feel like? Are you strolling, window shopping with a friend? Or is your heart rate up, you're breathing a little harder than usual, your body actually working? That difference is not a minor detail. It is, according to a growing body of research, the single most important variable in whether your walking is helping you live longer or just helping you feel like you're doing something. Here is the punchline of this video, and I'll back it up with science in a minute. The number of steps you take matters far less than the speed at which you take them. People over 60 who walk briskly, even for shorter distances, live measurably longer than people who walk slowly, even when those slow walkers cover more total ground. Let me tell you about a patient. Woman in her late 60s, retired teacher, very disciplined. She had been walking exactly 8,000 steps every day for 3 years. Her doctor told her this was great. She came to me because she was frustrated. She had not lost weight. Her blood pressure was creeping up. Her stamina, in her own words, was going backwards. We talked about her walks. 45 minutes every morning with her dog. Comfortable pace, conversational. She could easily sing along to the radio while doing it. That was the problem. Her body was barely being asked to work. We did not change her step count. We changed her pace. 6 weeks later, her resting heart rate had dropped. Her stamina was returning. Her blood pressure was trending down. Same time, same distance, same dog. Different speed. Now here's the research, and this is where it gets interesting. In 2018, Stamatakis and colleagues published a study in Mayo Clinic Proceedings analyzing the walking habits of more than 50,000 adults across the United Kingdom. They tracked these participants over an average follow-up of 9 years. What they found was remarkable. People who self-described their walking pace as brisk or fast had a significantly lower risk of dying from any cause, and a particularly lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, compared to people who walked at a slow pace. The relationship held even after adjusting for total physical activity, body mass index, age, smoking, and chronic conditions. The UK Biobank cohort, one of the largest health databases in the world, has reinforced this finding repeatedly. In studies looking at hundreds of thousands of participants, walking pace consistently emerges as one of the strongest predictors of all-cause mortality. Some research suggests that brisk walkers, even when they walk less total time per week, have a biological age that is markedly younger than slow walkers of the same chronological age. This is not a fringe finding. The National Institute on Aging now recommends a combination of moderate and vigorous activity for older adults, specifically because intensity, not just duration, drives the cardiovascular and muscular adaptations that translate into longevity. The American Heart Association says the same thing, more or less. The science is settled here. The medical system just hasn't communicated it well to seniors. So what does brisk actually mean? Here is where I want to be careful, because I'm not going to tell you to hit a specific heart rate or a specific pace, since the right number depends on your starting fitness and your medical situation. But the research uses a few practical definitions, and any of these can guide you. The simplest is what's called the talk test. If you can sing while you walk, you're walking too slowly. If you can speak in full sentences but not sing, you're walking at a moderate to brisk pace. If you can only get out a few words at a time, you're walking too hard. The brisk zone is where most of the longevity benefit lives. Another practical measure is roughly 3 miles per hour for most adults, which is about a 20-minute mile. Some studies use 4 miles per hour as the upper threshold of brisk, but these are averages. For an 80-year-old with knee arthritis, brisk might be 2.5 miles per hour. For a healthy 62-year-old, it might be 4. Your brisk is what makes you breathe noticeably harder than rest. Why does pace matter so much more than duration? It comes down to physiological adaptation. When you walk slowly, your cardiovascular system is barely working above its resting state. Your heart isn't being asked to pump harder. Your blood vessels aren't being stressed enough to release the signaling molecules that strengthen them. Your muscles are turning over so little ATP that they don't trigger the cellular changes that build endurance. You're moving, but you're not adapting. When you walk briskly, several things happen at once. Your heart rate climbs into a zone that strengthens cardiac muscle. Your blood vessels dilate and contract more dynamically, improving endothelial function over time. Your slow-twitch muscle fibers get recruited fully, and your fast-twitch fibers get recruited partially. This combination is what builds the cardiovascular reserve that translates into longevity. Studies on lactate, on VO2 max, on inflammatory markers, on insulin sensitivity, all point in the same direction. Intensity sustained over weeks and months is what changes the body. Slow walking maintains. Brisk walking adapts. There is also a balance and brain dimension to this that almost never gets discussed. Brisk walking requires more postural control, faster decision-making about foot placement, and tighter coordination of vision, balance, and stride. Older adults who walk briskly have, on average, lower rates of falls and better cognitive performance than those who walk slowly. The mechanism is not fully understood, but the data is consistent. Now, this part is critical, and please do not skip it. Brisk walking is not appropriate for everyone over 60, and starting too aggressively is one of the most common reasons people get injured and abandon exercise altogether. Here is who needs to talk to their doctor before increasing pace. If you have any history of cardiovascular disease, including angina, prior heart attack, atrial fibrillation, or heart failure, you need a conversation with your cardiologist about appropriate exercise intensity. Many of you can safely walk briskly, but the threshold and the progression should be guided by someone who knows your case. If you have severe knee or hip arthritis, brisk walking may aggravate joint pain. The right answer is not necessarily to skip it. It might be to use trekking poles, swim instead, do recumbent biking, or work with a physical therapist on technique. But you need a plan, not a leap. If you have balance problems, vestibular issues, or a history of falls, increasing pace before working on balance is dangerous. Walking faster on the same body that is already losing balance is a recipe for injury. If you have peripheral artery disease, severe shortness of breath, or unmanaged blood pressure, this absolutely needs medical evaluation first. Some of these conditions actually improve with appropriate exercise, but the supervision matters. If you experience chest pain, dizziness, unusual shortness of breath, or extreme fatigue while walking, stop and contact your physician. These are not signs to push through. They are signs to be evaluated. I won't give you a specific heart rate target or a specific pace because that depends on your situation. The studies use ranges, and your doctor or a cardiac rehab program can help you find what's right for you. Now, suppose you've talked with your physician and they've cleared you to start increasing pace. Where do you actually begin? Here is what I tell my patients. Take your current walking routine and don't change anything for 1 week. Just track 3 things every walk. The total time, your average pace, if your phone or watch can give it to you, otherwise the distance. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard did that walk feel? 11 feels like a leisurely stroll. 5 is moderate, breathing harder. 8 is hard, only short sentences. Track for 1 week, that's your baseline. Then in week 2, on 3 of your usual walks, increase your pace for short intervals. Walk faster for 2 minutes, then return to your normal pace for 2 minutes. Repeat this 6 times during the walk. The goal is to spend at least 12 minutes of each walk in the harder zone, not all at once. Your body will adapt to the harder intervals before you can sustain a faster pace continuously. In week 3, extend the harder intervals. 3 minutes harder, 2 minutes recovery. Or keep them at 2 minutes but increase the speed of the harder portion slightly. By week 6 or 8, most healthy adults are able to walk briskly for the entire walk, or close to it. Some take longer. Some never get there because of joint or cardiovascular limits, and that's fine. The goal is not to look like a young marathon runner. The goal is to push your physiology enough that it actually adapts. There are 2 practical traps to mention here. First, do not measure progress by total steps. Steps are a useful proxy, but they are a blunt instrument. A 12,000 step day where every step is at slow pace adapts you less than a 6,000 step day where half of the steps are brisk. If you want a better metric, track minutes spent in moderate to brisk pace, not total steps. Second, do not skip strength work just because you're walking faster. Brisk walking is excellent for cardiovascular health and longevity, but it does not, by itself, prevent the loss of muscle mass that happens with aging. After 60, every adult should also be doing some form of strength training 2 to 3 times per week. Brisk walking plus resistance training, even body weight resistance training at home, is the combination that actually preserves both heart health and muscle. When you go to your next medical appointment, walk in with 2 things written down. 1, what your current routine looks like, days per week, minutes per day, and an honest description of pace. Not, I walk every day. Try this. I walk 5 days a week for 40 minutes at a pace where I can comfortably hold a conversation. 2, a question. Something like, given my cardiovascular history and my joints, am I safe to gradually increase walking pace? And is there a specific zone I should target? That last question matters because it asks for judgment, not validation. It tends to lead to a real conversation. 3 quick questions I get often. Question 1. What if I have arthritis? Should I just give up on brisk walking? No. Many people with arthritis can walk briskly, especially if joint loading is supported by good footwear, by trekking poles, by warming up first, and by interval-style walking that avoids continuous high-impact pace. A physical therapist or sports medicine doctor can build a plan. Don't surrender the longevity benefit because of joint discomfort. Adapt around it. Question 2. What about treadmill versus outdoor walking? Either works for the cardiovascular benefit. Outdoor walking has additional balance and cognitive demands that may add benefit. Treadmills allow more controlled progression and are safer in bad weather. Most patients I see do best with a mix. Question 3. How long until I notice the benefit? Cardiovascular improvements show up within 4 to 8 weeks of consistent brisk walking. Mortality and long-term benefits accumulate over years. The short-term sign that you're on the right track is that walks that used to feel hard start to feel easier, and you can sustain a faster pace at the same perceived effort. Let me bring this back to one thing. Most seniors I see have been told for decades that walking is good for them, and that's true. But good for them has been delivered as any walking, any pace, any duration counts equally. The research does not support that framing. Pace matters. Intensity matters. The body, even at 70 or 80, responds to demand. If you don't ask it to work harder, it will not get stronger. It will simply maintain. Maintenance is a slow decline. Your body is still capable of adaptation. The science is clear on that. The question is whether you're going to ask it to adapt or just keep moving without challenging it. If this was useful, if you recognized yourself in this video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. Not for the numbers, just because this is the kind of breakdown I'll keep making, and if it's helpful, I want it to reach people who need it. If you have questions, leave them in the comments. I read them, not always quickly, but I read them. Take care of yourself. I'm Dr. Whitfield, and I'll see you in the next one. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. The presenter is an AI avatar. Content is reviewed for general accuracy, but cannot replace consultation with a qualified healthcare professional. Always consult your physician before starting or increasing any exercise program, especially if you have any cardiovascular condition, balance disorder, joint problem, or chronic illness. Stop and contact your doctor immediately if you experience chest pain, dizziness, severe shortness of breath, or unusual symptoms during exercise.